Hello and welcome to the Car Carno channel, and welcome to what is one of the best Lexus models ever made. Folks, today we have a 2004 Lexus LS430, and I should have said a beautiful Lexus LS430. Not only is this thing one of the best Lexus models ever made, I've told you before in another video, you can buy these in medium to low maintenance and they'll still be good. But this one is actually in great condition. The owner of this car is the second owner. He bought it from the first owner, who kept meticulous records at the dealership. This thing has been maintained since day one and loved, and the current owner continues to do so. In today's video, we're going to check it out. We're going to look at a few things. There are a few concerns that the owner has that he wants to take care of, so we're going to look at them together and more. But before we get started, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some of my other videos. If you are a returning subscriber, well, thank you so much for watching another one of my videos. And without further ado, let's go check this thing out. Before we start anything, let's take a tour inside the Lexus. Folks, this is one of the nicest interiors that come out of Toyota and Lexus land. Perhaps not modernness-wise, but material-wise. I mean, look at these seats. This is 2004. This is an 18-year-old car. And look at this leather. And I don't remember the last time I saw a Lexus of an LS of this generation that had worn leather. They were just that well made. It's incredible. We'll check the rear out in a bit. But let's look at the dash. What a nice place to be in. No large screen. There are some models with a large screen. I was talking to the owner. They had a common problem with these screens going out, but this one doesn't have it. So this is the ultimate version of the ultimate version of Lexus. The only where I see the interior is right here. And this could actually potentially be cleaned or salvaged, but the other side is better. Let's look at the miles. We have 147,864. And the best part about this car is this is an early smart key. So you had the key, you could actually use it, but at the same time, you could just turn the key and it would recognize it. So you can insert the key here as well. This is an early attempt at smart key in 2004. Folks, this thing is classic. It's sophisticated. It's very, very nice. Look at this headliner. This is one of the issues that we were talking about. This sunglass holder doesn't want to hold. So we have a little piece of tape until we get this looked at. But just the materials here, they're incredible. The quality and how well it held up over the years. And the back of the LS is where it's at. Look how comfortable this thing looks. It's incredible. Again, I just can't believe the quality. I mean, this leather, it's 18 years old. Perhaps it was conditioned, but usually it's not, even if you don't. I mean, it's soft leather. It's just beautiful. It's just, you buy a car that is 18 years old, you don't expect it to be in this condition, but that's the norm with these. You have a little mirror here with lights. That's pretty cool. And of course, the cap of the mirror and the edge is also in the same material as a headliner, not some cheap plastic. Very, very nice interior. I just can't stop raving about the interior because it's so nice. And of course, you had the buttons here to move the seats, because this is about a businessman sitting in the back, so he can push the seat without having to bother himself. Very nice interior, folks. This is one of the best Lexuses ever made. Let's pop the hood and let's see what we see, because there's more goodness there. Alrighty. Look under the hood here, and this is not only the best Lexus ever made, this is one of the best engines they ever made. Folks, this is the UZ series engine. We're going to talk about it a little bit as we go in this video, because there's some stuff a lot of people are not aware of with this engine. This particular one is the 3UZ. This is the smallest one, the 4.3. There is the 2UZ, which is the 4.7 on the Toyota side. We're very familiar with that. Land Cruiser, Tundra, Sequoia, the older ones. And then there is the legend, the 1UZ FE, which started Lexus basically. It was the same engine in the LS400, and that engine was a marvel of engineering. And actually, to a point, it still is, of how smooth it is and how well engineered it is. And there's an interesting fact about this engine. Believe it or not, the UZ series engine was actually certified for airplanes. And folks, in case you are not familiar with aviation stuff, engines in airplanes need to be top notch, because in a car, when you break down, you pull over to the side of the highway. In a plane, when the engine breaks down, we have a lot more serious problems. Let's just put it this way. This is how good this engine is. Having said that, and the typical fashion with Lexus around that time, now it's only getting worse, is to put all these covers to make sure everything looks nice and pretty. But we're going to go ahead and remove all of them because we want to do a proper inspection so we can see it. So I'm noticing already that some of the covers are actually missing clips. They're just literally just sitting there, so that's something we'll talk to the owner and address. And as soon as I take this one out, I see the first thing. And actually I saw it in the service records. This strut has been replaced, potentially with an aftermarket unit. Because I'm just looking at the bolts. These are not original. The nuts here, they're not original. So that's the first thing, and that's probably why the clips are missing. I mean, you take clips, the original ones break, replace them. Why do you just throw the cover back in there? But that's unfortunately how some mechanics do things. Again, same thing here, same thing on this strut. I cannot tell you how much I love this engine and to work on it. Some people dislike it. I really like this engine. It is one of the best engines made. It's so beautifully engineered. It's just, I love this engine. Well, now you can actually see everything as it was intended, or maybe if you open the hood underneath on a Tundra or a Sequoia, you're going to see something similar. There are a few things that are different. They are a little bit next level on this engine, and we're going to point them out. Let's take a look. This is a V8, naturally aspirated, perfectly balanced V8, actually, so smooth. And I'm looking here. One of the concerns that we have is a burning smell, and I can already see the valve cover is leaking. I hope you can see it well. Some of you have pointed that this light is too strong, too focused. I'm working on getting another light. So the other thing is, on this engine, this is actually an aluminum cover. On the Tundra and Sequoia, or on the 2UZ, this will be plastic. This is not plastic here. And that is pretty impressive. The levels of plastic on this engine are very, very low. You just don't have a lot of plastic stuff on the engine itself, not on the stuff attached to it. There are some few common issues with these cars with plastic. But I'm looking at everything here. Our drive belt looks okay. I don't see anything in the front here. We have the same thing on the valve cover on this side. I can actually see it from there if you look at that wire harness I pointed in the editing. It's wet, same thing, the valve cover is leaking. After 18 years, this is the only thing we have. Power steering fluid is good. There's a timing belt sticker, and it says 86,000 miles. And then I saw another timing belt sticker right here, which is aftermarket. Aisin is actually a good brand, but it doesn't have the mileage. That doesn't help us a lot. Let's look at the radiator here. This appears to be in here. Toyota, of course. Appears to be an original radiator, original hoses. Again, we talked about the hoses. If they ain't broke, don't fix it. And this applies 100% here. I don't see anything of concern. looking at everything here. The only thing I see is that valve cover. We're going to need valve cover gaskets. And really, that's about it. No leaks, no issues, no coolant leaks underneath the plenum. It's really hard for you to see, but I'm looking, nothing. Coolant level is a little on the lower side. We're going to top it off here and check for any other leaks. He did mention that there was a coolant service done recently. Perhaps they didn't bleed it properly, that's why it dropped. This is a beautiful, beautiful engine. Not only the way it runs and how smooth it is, but just how well it holds up. Something that is somewhat common, and common with actually other models. This coolant valve to break, this one is great. This is the plastic parts, so not as common on these, but a lot more common on the Tundra, Sequoia, and especially the Land Cruiser. But I just can't get enough of this engine, folks. This is beautiful. So here's what we have. Here's what we're going to look for. This door lock doesn't work electrically. And this being a driver's door, it's kind of a hassle. So this is what I see mechanics always do. They see this in a Toyota. They're like, oh yeah, it needs a door lock actuator. Without even testing it, without even doing anything, even though it takes, what, 5 minutes to test it? Sometimes this is how you get yourself in trouble as a mechanic. You assume things just because the previous 10 things did the same. You just assume this one is the same, and that's usually the one that comes back and causes trouble. So let's take the door panel off real quick and test it. And again, we continue with this car. I love the quality of everything and how well everything feels here. Down to the wires, down to everything. It's just such a high quality car. We have one screw here. And this door panel has 7 screws holding it, which is pretty incredible because usually the newer cars, they're getting less and less and less with the screws. And this one has 7. All right, we got all our 7 screws out. Before we continue, folks, I just want you to see this. This is why these cars are so quiet. This insulation is excessive. You will not see this in other cars. I mean, look how thick this thing is and how much of it there is. I'm just passing my hand over it. This is why these cars are expensive. And I'll say this, and this is going to sound odd. There is probably more insulation in this door panel than there is in entire cars on some models. This is how overbuilt this thing is. And this door panel, it's very heavy actually, because other than this little wear mark right here, it is in perfect condition. The wood is beautiful. Everything is just overbuilt on these cars. But let's check the door lock. So because this is the flagship car, there's of course a computer in the door. Some people dislike this, but you know what? When it comes to Toyota land, you're not going to have a lot of issues with these because they're just that well built. So to test this, we're going to need to get the connector off the door lock actuator. And to do that, we have to deal with the vapor barrier. One thing about these vapor barriers, when you see them on cars, these are extremely important because water gets in through the seal of the glass into the door and then drains down. That is normal. But you don't want that humidity on the inside of the door to make its way outside into the cabin and then fog up the windows. So I see so many mechanics rip this out and just throw it. Don't do that. If it gets ripped, use some tape. You can even get house vapor barrier. This is all this is. It's just a vapor barrier. So don't be shy to kind of use your ingenuity when it comes to vapor barriers. It doesn't have to be the exact same one. It just needs to be a vapor barrier, just like you would put when you're doing construction. This has this gooey stuff that holds it in place. You can usually just peel it off. And the connector is right here. There we go. So here's how we're going to test this. I have my little snap-on tester. You can use a multimeter. I know that the two blue wire with the black tracer and the blue wire with the red tracer are the plus and minus for the door lock actuator. So if I put my meter on it right now, we're getting a negative. It's going to change to a positive. The positive sound sounds like this. Do you hear it? So right now, we're going to connect our switch. And basically how door locks work, you have two wires. If you put positive on one and negative on the other, it's going to move the motor one way, but if you flip them, it's going to move it the other way. So if we stand on one of them, we have negative. This happens so quick. Did you hear how the meter stopped? Because this happens so quick, the meter is not quick enough to fully recognize that 12 volts and back. It's just going to pick it up halfway and come back to negative. So you know that this is getting power. If we go the other wire, you get a good connection here. There we go. It stopped. And on this side, it doesn't stop because it is applying ground to that side. So now we know our wiring is good. We're getting power and ground. So all we have is a faulty motor, and this is something we're going to have to look at parts, see if we can get the motor separately. If we cannot, then it's going to be the whole latch, which does get a little expensive. But when you're talking about a car of this caliber and this kind of car, you do not want to cheap out. You want to fix it the right way and be done with it. Something about reassembly of this, you always want to make sure this attaches well and that you have no giant gaps here. Again, I hear so many viewers tell me, oh, when you take door panels off, things will rattle and we're going to have issues. And let me talk about that for a second, because this is important. When you take a door panel off, now this door panel has minimal clips. Make sure they're all there. Sometimes these clips will get stuck on the door. This is just a standard clip. Any Toyota dealership or Lexus dealership will have them in stock usually. Now the colors, you'll see some of them are white, some of them are green, some of them are blue. That is basically different applications. Really, they're all the same in essence, but depends where the car is manufactured and all that. But you always make sure these clips are there and none of them are broken or missing. Replace them, because that's how the door panel starts rattling. So let's reinstall our panel, and then we're going to get our cable in. Believe it or not, these cables, the green and the white, you're going to see this even in modern ones, Toyota and Lexus. Usually there's two styles of door panels on Toyota and Lexus. There's the one that hangs on the top, like this one. So you're going to hook it here first, then install it. But some of them, the door seal will stay here, and then you clip the door onto it. These are usually the two styles that we have. So all our clips are engaged, make sure nothing is obstructed. Now we're going to reinstall our bolts, our screws, not bolts. handle cover here. And last but not least, the master switch. See, Mrs. Karkirna's comment, like nothing happened. Yes, that's how automotive repair should be. When you're into, you go inside a panel or something, when you're done, it should be like nothing happened. That's how it always should be. And if it's not, you need to go back and make sure. It's very important when you work on door panels or interior parts that everything looks perfect. If you have smudges, dirt, whatever, you need to clean it, because this is the first thing the customer is going to see. You could have done the best job inside the door fixing it. What they can't see, but what they can see, it's very important. Folks, this is the LS430. It is a beautiful car the day it came out, and today it's even more beautiful. If you find one of these for sale, and the emphasis on the word if, because people that own this car, they love it so much that short of retiring or maybe buying another one with lower miles, they really don't get rid of them very often. That's why you don't see these come up on the market unless they're really run down or they have 300,000 miles. But even at 300,000 miles, just like the Land Cruiser, they'll just keep going. And that's the beauty of these cars. Some things that I will mention on this car in case you're looking to buy one. Avoid ones with a screen, or be ready for that screen to go out at some point, because they're just common for this. And the second thing is air suspension. These had an option. This one doesn't have it, but there is an option for air suspension. Now, it's a very well-made air suspension, nothing like Mercedes Airmatic or the Nightmares, but it's a very well-made air suspension. But at 18 years old, things will go. And when they do, they are expensive. But the good news is you can easily convert it to a non-air suspension. It's going to be a little bit of an expense, but that's one thing. The other thing is the door locks. They are actually somewhat common to go, and they can get expensive, especially if you have the soft closing door. I personally would avoid it. If you find one with a soft closing door, I would avoid it because they tend to be a little bit more expensive. It's really a gimmick. It's not a feature a highlight in this car. What's highlighted about this car is how well it's made. Otherwise, these are really, really nice cars. I mean, yes, you might have a valve cover leak, typical maintenance, some suspension components eventually at this age will go, control arms, ball joints, whatnot. But we're still talking, you're going to be replacing the originals at this age. To me, personally, the LS400, which is before this, it is equally as reliable as well. But it's just getting a little too old. We're seeing issues with wiring harnesses getting brittle, especially when you go into the 90s ones. And then the LS460, as good of a car as it is a significant drop in quality from this. Unfortunately, the truth has to be said. The LS460, it's a nice car, but it's not the LS430. This is where it is. And this is the kind of car that is not really going to bankrupt you because, yes, parts are expensive, but the little parts are going to go out. Compared to the LS460, where every day there's a little thing here and there, this is where it is. I love this car, and more importantly, I love the people that own them because they appreciate them, they love them. I rarely see these neglected and abused because people usually love them. Folks, I hope this video is helpful and informative. Now you know what is the best Lexus ever made, in my opinion, and I'm pretty sure the community will agree on this one because these are truly nice cars. If you like this video, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some of my other videos. And until the next video, folks, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and you have yourself a wonderful day.